The first thing I want to get into, and we can kind of make this a short topic. We talked a little bit about this beforehand. I just want to make sure we cover this for the people. When you're looking up and down the NFC West, you're looking at the 49ers, the Rams, the Cardinals, the Seahawks. I think a lot of people have made the correct comment that you could argue any one of these teams finishing first or even fourth in the division, So when you're looking at this division, how do you think it's going to shake out by the end of the season?
I think in the NFC West, it's really clear cut between the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Rams. Those are your top three teams. The Cardinals are down, and I put them kind of at a different tier than the other three. And so I see this as, if I was going to break this down, I'd say it's going to be really between the 49ers and the Seahawks. I really like the Seahawks. They're in it every year. And when I say I like the Seahawks, I mean, they're just from the standpoint that they're in it every year. The 49ers and them, I think it's going to come down to those two games as far as who wins the NFC West. The Rams are going to be right there too. I think they're going to be tougher with the fact that they have Matthew Stafford in the mix now. That's a big upgrade over Jared Goff. But I think that the 49ers will still be able to give him enough problems that they're going to be able to take advantage of the Rams, and it's going to come down more to them in Seattle at the end of the season for who's going to end up with the NFC West crown.
Yeah, and just like you mentioned, I mean, the 49ers, they've kind of sort of had the Rams number the last 2 years, 4-0 against them. So I know 49ers fans are certainly confident against the Rams, but I'm going to push back on that because, hey, if you go and look at the video I did on Friday with Vish, we were talking about who we think the second best team in the NFC is. I think it's the Rams. The Buccaneers are that clear-cut team to me who is above the rest. I don't think there's really an argument about that. But with the Rams, for me, the reason I think this team is going to do so well this year is what you mentioned. It's the addition of Matthew Stafford. And really, it's not just that, but it's the difference between Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford and how much that he's going to add to that team. And for Sean McVay, I don't think he's ever truly had this extension of a coach on the field, kind of like Kyle had in Atlanta, where he had what he had with Matt Ryan, right? So I think that aspect is going to help out the Rams a lot. And I'm a huge Cam Akers guy, of course, being at FSU, loving my Seminoles. But no, he's a really great back. And then, I think with their defense, they can still be really successful, even though they did lose a lot of depth because, they have the two best defensive players in the NFL, in my opinion. So I think when you have that, but like going back to what you said, though, I think the three teams who are at the top of the division, it's pretty clear-cut. It's the Seahawks, it's the Rams, the 49ers. And for me, I would put the Rams first, like I said, then the 49ers, and then the Seahawks. And I guess for me, I don't want to say I've been waiting for Seattle to fall off the wagon, but it's like, how much longer can they do this for, It seems like it just keeps going on and on. But I think we're probably in agreement that probably going to be the Cardinals as the third or fourth team in the division, no matter what. Even though I think that's a team on the rise, and hey, they added great guys this offseason. J.J. Watt, of course, is the headliner, but out of all the coaches, Cliff Kingsbury is clearly the worst coach out of the bunch. So I think that's what knocks them down the most. But I think you're right. Those three teams at the top, it's pretty clear, and those divisional games between those three teams could really end up determining who could get that bye in the first round, right? And who could be that divisional spot, or who could be in the wild card and going against some of the better teams in the NFC. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it shakes out, no matter what.
Yeah, I agree with you. And who do you have as the number one in the NFC West?
I'm going to go with the Rams. I really think the Rams are that good, and I'm just a huge believer in Sean McVay. Real quick, everybody, if you haven't listened to it yet, go check out the Flying Coach podcast when you get a chance. It's the podcast Sean McVay has been doing this offseason with Peter Schrager, and he talks to head coaches all around the NFL. Fascinating, like really great stuff, really. But with Sean, I think he's a guy I've believed in forever. And I think that team has all the offensive weapons in the world to where Matthew Stafford's he's going to light it up. I'm just a huge Stafford believer and a huge McVay believer. So when that marriage happened this offseason, even though I don't want to see the Rams do well, that's just a team I think is going to be doing really good this year.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right there. I mean, when you talk about Sean McVay, that's a guy who I've been talking about quite a bit for a while, as he's really done well with the Rams. I understand he walked into a situation where they had a pretty good amount of talent, but they had been really bad before he took over there, and he really did a good job of turning them around. And even when they had a down year, was it 2019? I think it was. They were still 9-7. They were still in the playoff hunt right down to the end of the season. So I can see where you're coming from with that. That's not a bad call at all.
No, and I think like I said, the thing with this division is you could really argue any sort of way you want the division to go and how you think it's going to end up. I think everybody is kind of like pick your poison at this rate. I don't think there's any clear cut thing that is going to set any team apart.